This is the Archangel 2210 here to give you another installment of a grim discussion. Now, I'm actually going to give you a official review of the pilot episode of Once Upon a Time. Give a little back view of what the whole story and synopsis about the show was. Basically, it's going to go back and forth between a fairy tale universe and the modern world, but it's really not past and present. It's really two separate universes that are like parallel to each other. And in this fairy tale universe, you have all these fairy tale stories. Of course, Snow White and her Prince Charming. That they're really like that. She's really the only princess of the kingdom. Snow White, the Prince Charming, and Wicked Queen, who's now been dethroned. She's just a wicked witch now. And you have they showed little other characters like Geppetto and Pinocchio, the little Red Riding Hood and her grandmother, the Blue Fairy from Pinocchio, other little nuggets of fairy tale creatures and things. And basically, after the fairy tale ending of Snow White and the prince, they had their wedding. On their wedding day, the queen, gave them a curse. Um, that you will lose everything, not just them, but the entire kingdom will lose everything that they hold dear. So it wasn't the next day, but it was pretty much she gave them like a full year because Snow White was able to she was pregnant and she had a baby full term. You know, in still the fairy tale kingdom. So this whole time they know that this curse is looming. This curse is looming. They don't know when it's gonna hit, and so then they go to Rumpelstiltskin, who they say can see the future, which I don't remember that being true, but I'm just gonna go along for the ride. And they say that he could. She goes to him because she wants to know if her daughter's gonna be okay. She wants to know if everything's gonna be fine. So Snow White goes to him, and she's like, "What's gonna happen to us? What's gonna happen to everything?" Like, and he basically confirms that you're gonna lose everything that you hold dear. You're gonna lose everything. And meanwhile, they're going back and forth between that and this young 28-year-old woman, Emma Swan. How she's been an orphan. She didn't really know her parents or anything, and she doesn't really have a big family. And she actually had a son that she gave up for adoption like 10 years ago or so. Pretty much when she was 18. And that son comes. He takes a bus and he goes and he tracks her down, and he has this big fairy tale book that says Once Upon a Time on it, and it's basically the story of how everything came to pass, how the fairy tale creatures and characters, they were ripped from their world and came to ours, and the whole, almost like a prophecy. It's not just a fairy tale book, it's almost like a prophecy of everything's going to happen within the next few years or so. And the kid is the only one that knows that in the town that everyone is a fairy tale person. Now, back to the fairy tale world. Um, Basically, they they were able to construct a magic wardrobe from the same tree that was enchanted that built Pinocchio. So Geppetto built this magic wardrobe, and they didn't know what it would do exactly, but they knew it would protect one person from the curse. And but they didn't know what the curse was. They just knew that it was going to be a curse that was going to take away everything that they loved. And Rumpelstiltskin did say to them that your daughter will come back and she'll bring back um she'll bring back reunite the fight and everything on her 28th birthday. She'll return. You know, so basically all this stuff is happening. Snow White basically unexpectedly gives birth, and so they were expecting just to have pregnant Snow White, putting her in the wardrobe and protecting her, but she gives birth, and they're like, "Oh, it's too late." So Snow White has Prince Charming put baby Emma in the wardrobe to protect her from the curse. Unknowingly, when they put her in there, it didn't just protect her, it teleported her in a way to our world. And it's almost like a time paradox, you could think of it, because the time, even though it's only minutes or seconds from when she was put in the wardrobe to the actual curse itself took place, it was actually 28 years. Because she was put in the wardrobe, and then just minutes later, that's when the queen enters the thing, and she has her curse full force. And she basically says, that she's going to take them to another world. She's going to take someplace horrible, and she's basically taking them to the modern world, but not just taking them to the modern world, but she's erasing their memories. None of them will know who they really are, and they're basically in this small little town called Storybrooke, and they're wandering around this little town with no memory of who they really are, but just of who they are in this town. And they have a whole new identity, a whole new name, but they're still that real person that they don't even realize. So Snow White, she's become a school teacher, and she has the qualities now that the Evil Queen wanted her to have, which is like insecurities and hopelessness and just, alone, just being alone. When in the fairy tale world, Snow White was always secure of herself, and she was always filled with hope and faith and everything. So she wanted to twist that and make her the opposite. Jiminy Cricket is actually the town therapist, and he is actually the therapist of the entire town. And Little Red Riding Hood and the grandmother actually own a little bed and breakfast. So I thought that was a little cute idea. And the Evil Queen is actually the mayor of the entire town. So it's kind of implied that not only does the queen possibly know that she's still the Evil Queen, but because she still acts like the Evil Queen, but it almost is implied that Rumpelstiltskin also still kind of knows who he is, because Rumpelstiltskin asked what Snow White's baby's name will be, and he said that her name will be Emma. And then when Rumpelstiltskin was in their bed and breakfast and he met her, he asked her, what is your name? And she said, oh, my name's Emma. And he looked at her as if he knew who she was, and who he possibly knows the significance of her name and who she possibly is. So I think that it's like he knows who he is, that he knows he's Rumpelstiltskin. It's just my theory. Nothing has been. It's like nothing. It hasn't been officially revealed that the queen still knows who she is, and Rumpelstiltskin still knows who he is. But that's just my theory, because they almost act as though they still have this pact, because no one else knows except that little kid, that one little kid who I think is supposed to be Pinocchio. I think he's supposed to be Pinocchio. How that works out, I don't know, but. I just thought this show it was completely awesome. It was an awesome show. I was really geared up to watch it, because I'll be perfectly honest, I'm not excited to watch the movies that are of Snow White in the movie theaters, with Kirsten Stewart and the other girl whose name I forget. But this I was really excited to watch, because this I could see going on for a good 5 years at least. They said that it's the writers of Lost. If you like the show Lost, you'll probably like this. I've never actually watched Lost, and if you in that majority that you have not watched Lost, or were not a fan of Lost, give this, because this is really fantastic. This is really good. It bounces back and forth constantly between the fairy tale world and our world, but not in a makes your head spin type of way. It really, because in the next episode they're going to show how Snow White and the prince actually met, and why the queen actually has this vendetta against Snow White, besides what we read in the book. So it's like they're going to reveal little by little of what led up to the curse all this time. So this is really a good show, and I can't wait to see the rest of how it's all gonna play out because I'm really excited about this show. Now, next week is gonna be NBC's show Grimm. So this is another show that's gonna be coming out. And I'll do a whole review on that one also. Now, this show, in case you want to watch it, it's on ABC 7. ABC 7 Sundays. At 8 o'clock. 8 o'clock, ABC 7, Sunday nights. And that's kind of a weird day for me, but this is a show I'm really excited about. I'm really excited about the show. And I can't wait to see Grimm. I really can't wait to see Grimm because the whole thing, especially with it being the producers of Buffy and Angel on the Grimm show on NBC, I think that's going to be a hit. This one, it's a must watch. Once Upon a Time to me is a must watch, complete must watch. This is a great show, great if you like action, fantasy, because it's not just for kids. It's really a fantastic show. If you have seen it, give your thoughts on what you think of the show and what fairy tale characters you would like to see and what you think is going to happen in the end. What do you think is going to happen in the end? Like, what are the secrets you think will be revealed?